A homeowner in Philadelphia had to pay a squatter to leave in a story that shows that it is cheaper for landlords to pay squatter tenants to leave than it is to evict them. I'm Tony, and this is Real Estate Investing and Landlord News. Alright, so I have an interesting article for you today, and it's coming out of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and it has to do with a squatter tenant, okay? Now, this is the kind of situation that all of us, we fear getting placed into. A person who basically moves into your property and, has no right to be there whatsoever, but the police, they refuse to remove them. They don't act like this person is a trespasser, which in my opinion is what they are, right? Instead, they act like this person is a tenant, and then you have to go through the civil eviction process in order to get that person up out of the property. So in the case in this story, that was what the homeowner found out that they had to do, right? And rather than going through the civil eviction process, they pulled money out of their pocket and paid that person to leave. So I've talked many times about how, in places, especially places with strong tenant protections, it is oftentimes cheaper to work out a cash settlement with the tenant versus losing, 3, 4, 5, 6 months of rent, having to deal with damages, having to pay lawyers, having to jump through all the hoops of the bureaucracy. It is just cheaper to pay them to leave, right? And this is a perfect example of that sort of situation happening. So, I hate to see that the landlord or the property owner ended up losing this money to this scammer, right? But in the end, the amount that they paid, which I'll tell you after we get into the article, ends up being a lot cheaper than what could have been the cost if they had tried to fight the case in court. That's awful because, that just tells you that, this is an injustice. This is an injustice to the property owners. And rather than having a quick, efficient system to remove tenants easily, we end up with a system where it is much more difficult and it is actually cheaper just to pay them to go. So before I get into the article, go ahead, hit the like and subscribe button, maybe leave a comment down below and let me know what you think. So for the landlords out there, have you ever paid a person to leave? Okay, I'm talking about a person who, maybe doesn't want to leave, is fighting their eviction, and rather than go through the full eviction process or whatever, have you actually paid someone to leave? I'm just curious. This might be more common for people in places with strong tenant protections like New York or California, but I want to hear your story. Put it down in the comments below, and let's get into this article. This article is coming from one of my least favorite sources, the Daily Mail. And it says, Philly homeowner forced to pay $1,200 to get a squatter to leave his home after police refused to intervene, and an eviction could take 6 months. Yeah, and so $1,200 is pretty cheap compared to 6 months of lost rent, not to mention any court costs, any legal fees, etc. Plus, if you pay the tenant to leave, hopefully they did less damage than if, you had to evict them. And so, you could end up basically saving a great deal of money by just, hey, here, take this money, get the heck out, okay? So anyway, let's read the specifics of this article. A Philadelphia homeowner was forced to pay $1,200 to get a squatter to vacate his property, as he says the Democrat-run city and even its police force is rewarding criminals. The idea of squatters' rights has become a hot-button issue for investors, with states like Florida looking to pass laws to close loopholes that enable them to take over properties. Chris Hart bought a home in Northwest Philadelphia, renovated it, and attempted to sell it in late 2023. That is when a squatter moved in, and city officials told him there was little they could do to remove the unwanted tenant. So yeah, this is the situation. Okay, we have a real estate investor, probably a house flipper, right? Buys the property, fixes it up, wants to sell it at a higher cost than what they paid for. Okay, so, but people, they have their eyes open. Okay, these squatters, these scammers, they are always looking for a property that might be vacant, that it appears nobody's living in, and they will just go over there. Sometimes if there's a lockbox on there, somehow, they might break into that lockbox, or they might get the code, and then they'll have a key to the place, right? They'll come up with like this fake lease. Oh, I've got a lease. It's usually just a lease that they pulled off of the internet, and then they wrote in the information themselves. Okay, so it would be easy for the police to verify that this person is a trespasser and nothing more than that. But they're not going to do any sort of investigation whatsoever in a large majority of these cases, okay? Because they don't want anything to do with it. They know that they can get in all sorts of trouble if they help out a person acting maliciously and remove a person who is an actual tenant. So they would rather not deal with it, and they say, hey, go over to civil court. My problem with this is, though, that, if a person, let's say there is a bad landlord, a bad actor out there saying, hey, this person is trespassing, and that person is an actual tenant, well, then just prosecute the landlord for, lying, for, committing a fraud. Why just throw all other landlords who are actually being honest and actually want these bad people out of their properties? You throw us under the bus. You tell us, screw you, we're so worried about getting in trouble ourselves that we're not going to enforce the laws. The laws of breaking and entering, the laws of trespassing, the laws of property damage, all the things that are involved when a squatter busts into somebody's property and then claims to live there. The document fraud. There's all sorts of laws being broken here by these people, yet the police are willing to do nothing, and you got to sue them as though they are somebody who actually has some sort of rights, and they should have none. Okay? It's just unbelievable, Hart told Fox News Digital. The city is rewarding criminals, basically. On December 8th, Hart's real estate agent got a tip from a neighbor who said they'd heard noises from there the night before. The neighbor ended up taking a look, only to see people moving into the house and taking down a for sale sign. Hart, then caught in a bind of having to pick up his children from school and get his wife from the airport, contacted local police. When he heard back from the cops, they said people were on the premises trying to change the locks. In addition, because the squatters claimed they were renting out the property, they said they couldn't do anything about it. That's a bunch of garbage, okay? They're just being lazy. They're just being lazy because it's easily verifiable. These people just broke in, just started changing the locks, and, they haven't even been there for an hour, and the police, oh, no, we can't. Well, he said he was renting the place. Imagine, okay, I just want to give you an example of something similar happening, okay? Imagine it's just some random person, me, I just walk down the street, walk over to one of my neighbor's houses. I walk in the front door. They call the police on me, and I just, I'm renting this place. Sorry, no, I live here. And they're like, what the hell? No, you don't live here. You don't have any documentation that says you live here, other than some little sheet of paper that it's a complete lie. You don't live there. Okay, this is a joke, and like I said, this is too easy to prove. And if the person who is, if somebody's making a false statement in order to get somebody evicted, then charge that person specifically with false statement. Don't just have a blanket policy that says, well, we're not going to remove trespassers. What a joke. This is why people don't want to live in these type of places. Okay, this is why Florida is, working on laws, and I think they already have a law on the book that will allow a landlord to sign a sworn affidavit saying that the person is fraud, that they don't have a rent, they're not renting their property. So that's the kind of laws we need in every single state to make sure that these scammers, these squatters don't end up in our properties. I had all my paperwork, purchase and sale agreement, homeowner's insurance, the deed to the home, everything on me. They said it didn't matter, Hart said of a meeting he had with the police, his realtor, and his locksmith the next day. Police said the squatters did indeed have rights, and Hart would have to file a landlord-tenant complaint, costing him over $300 and potentially taking up to a year. Philadelphia police would only confirm Hart had been informed of the issue and confirmed they made no arrests. Squatters' rights is like an oxymoron, Hart scoffed in an interview with Fox News. Yeah, and I feel for this guy, okay? I'm a real estate investor. I have rehabbed properties and they've sat empty for a while they were being worked on or while I was waiting to rent them out. And this could have very easily happened to me. Now, fortunately, it did not. Okay, now that's not to say that it won't happen to me in the future at some point in time, right? But keep in mind where I invest compared to where this guy is investing. And this is the kind of thing where, they want people to go into these older, cities with declining populations like Philadelphia. They want, there's a ton of blighted properties out there in horrible shape. They want investors to go in there and fix these places up, make the city a nicer place. But the actions that they hate property owners. They hate landlords. They treat you like garbage if you do go up in there and you're trying to fix something up. They treat you like you're the criminal, like you're the problem. Oh, you're gentrifying the place. Oh, you need to jump through these hoops. Oh, don't waste your time. Okay? This is my suggestion. Don't waste your time in a place where they treat you like garbage. I know you're a house flipper and you're thinking to yourself, oh, I'm just going to be in and out. Well, a situation like this occurs, and guess what? Now you find yourself in the position of being a long-term landlord who has to go through the exact same eviction process as somebody like me. So yeah, that's a good reason right there to not want to even have to deal with it. So, it says here that I'm going to skip down a little bit. And it says that the squatters allegedly contacted Cervone and asked for a meeting a few days after Hart confronted police. They told Hart they had found another place to go, but they would only vacate if Hart gave them $2,000. Hart said he couldn't give them $2,000, but succumbed to a compromise of $1,200. Not only had they squatted, but the people living there trashed the place. The house was super dirty, trash everywhere, he said. Luckily, there was no damage. So, yeah, cleaning a bunch of trash out sucks, right? But hey, no damage. That's a good thing right there. Second thing, $1,200. Now, if you're flipping a house and you've got a hard money loan on the place, you're probably paying more than $1,200 for every single month that you own this place, right? So, you do the math. If it takes you 5-6 months, a year to get these people up out of there, you're going to lose way, way more than that. So, not to mention if if they get free lawyers from the city and all sorts of, garbage tenant rights or drag the process out even further, basically, you're doing yourself a favor by paying them $1,200, right? Now get rid of the place. Sell it as quickly as possible. Like I said, I feel for you. That's a bad situation to be put in. I hate that it happened to you, but it's a good warning for landlords out there that, hey, we've got to really be diligent, especially when we are rehabbing or, refurbishing our homes after they've been rented and they're sitting empty for even a short amount of time. Somebody can just hop up in there and claim to be a tenant and screw us completely over.